But a lot has changed at the White House. You just saw the White House press corps. Boy, did they stop asking questions, or did they start asking really dumb questions? I was doing a comparison, my successor, Jen Psaki, some of the questions she was asked. You won't believe them. You won't believe them. Listen to this. They asked her, could you give us some color about what it was like for Joe Biden to walk into the Oval Office? He's been waiting for this for so long. He's never given a question like that. Would have loved it. Then there was this one. Will he keep Donald Trump's Air Force One color scheme? Hard-hitting question. All of America was wondering. Well done, White House press corps. Then they had this. Can you clarify for us what happened with the president's dog? We heard there was a biting incident. And then my personal favorite, Jen, tell us about the White House cat. Never received a single question of that nature. No, in fact, here's what I was asked. Let me ask if I can, Kayleigh, why does the president keep hiring people who are dumb as a rock, overrated, way over their heads, wacko, and incompetent? Then they said, so you used the phrase warriors to describe the American people fighting through the pandemic. The president's used that phrase as well. What's the thinking? Is President Trump asking Americans to take up arms like warriors? No, I think he's just praising the American people for fighting through a once-in-a-generation global pandemic, but okay. And then there's the question. If you go back and watch, you see me flipping through my binder, and I stop and stare forward in utter bewilderment. Because when I say there's no such thing as a dumb question, there is, and it was asked by Ryan Lizzo when he asked me this. Does President Trump believe it was a good thing that the South lost the Civil War? Really? That is a dumb question. If I would be asked to give a briefing, it had been 400 days since the press secretary had given a briefing. The last one was by my predecessor, Sarah Sanders. But one day, President Trump looked at me and said, I want you to do a briefing. And I said, okay, I need a few weeks to get a binder together. The binder was really interesting to the press. They had a camera behind me. They would take pictures of it. And CNN actually had this article, Decoding the Mysteries of Kayleigh McEnany's Briefing Binder, where they tried to interpret what my tabs meant. And my tabs were like therapeutics, vaccine, whatever the topics were of the day. So I thought one day we'd do a head fake, and instead of topics like that, we would do Caitlin Collins, John Carl, Jim Acosta, the names of the reporters as tabs. Never did it. Nevertheless, the people are seeing through the media. Gallup had the media ranked at its lowest rate of trust ever in the history of taking the poll. 46 countries were surveyed for trust in media. Guess who came in dead last? United States. Edelman Trust Barometer, this comes out every January, found that 67% of the country say journalists and reporters are purposely trying to mislead people by saying things they know to be false or gross exaggerations. Huge. Then social media, they're being exposed because of two words, Elon Musk. This guy's a hero. The Twitter files came out, the first batch. I was number 19 of the Twitter files. White House spokesman Kayleigh McEnany was locked out of her account for tweeting about the Hunter Biden story. Locked out of my account for sharing a story from the country's oldest continuously published newspaper. That's the New York Post. Been around since 1801, created by Alexander Hamilton, one of the 5 largest newspapers in the United States. They're locked out, I'm locked out, and I'm told that I have to delete my tweet in order to regain access. I caved. I did delete my tweet because I wanted to be able to tweet. I had my daughter do it, though. She was only about a year old at the time, and at the time, in October of 2020, I tweeted out this, one day I will explain to her what censorship is and why she had to unjustly delete mommy's tweet in order for her to speak. But 2 years later, a guy named Elon Musk comes around. I find out all of the censorship stuff out, and I get to re-quote my tweet with this message. Now I get to explain to my daughter who Elon Musk is and how he has fought for free speech for me and millions of other Americans. He has exposed social media. And not only have we exposed media and social media, but we're winning on, to me, what are two of the most important issues of our time. And those are the issues of life and liberty. 63 million children have lost their lives since Roe because of the scourge of abortion. We were in the good company of North Korea and China with our nation's abortion laws. We were one of 7 countries in the world that allowed elective abortion after 20 weeks. And then you had these insane statements from people like Stacey Abrams, the twice-failed gubernatorial candidate down in Georgia, who said this: "There's no such thing as a heartbeat at 6 weeks. It's a manufactured sound designed to convince people that men have the right to control a woman's body." Okay. I went to an appointment when my baby was 5 weeks. I saw the heartbeat. I heard the heartbeat. It was not a cabal of doctors that came together to convince me that my husband controlled my body. No, Stacey, that didn't happen. That's called a conspiracy theory. But what's interesting is watch the way the science changes. In the media and social media and the scientific community and special interest groups all come together to protect an asinine statement like the statement made by Stacey Abrams. In the aftermath of her statement, you could look at any scientific publication. There were 4 or 5 NHS over in the United Kingdom, National Journal of Medicine. They all say there's a heartbeat at 6 weeks. But what happened? Stacey Abrams makes this ludicrous claim. Planned Parenthood, around the same time, changed their website. They used to say there was a heartbeat, then they changed their website. But what was interesting, because this was pre-Elon Musk takeover of Twitter, you know when there's a trend section, there's a name trending, and underneath is supposed to be a really agnostic, simple description as to why the name is trending. Well, here was the description as written by Twitter. GA gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams said there's no such thing as a fetal heartbeat at 6 weeks of pregnancy, and doctors agree one does not exist at this early stage of pregnancy. Reports from NBC News and NPR confirm. You see what happened there? Most recent case was a case called Tandem v. Newsom, where he was trying to go into people's homes and limit the number of people who could gather in quiet prayer in their homes. Imagine that. The government coming into your home and telling you how many people can gather to pray. But it's changed, and we're winning on life. We're winning on liberty. And I tell you all of this, I know you guys are in a battle, especially those of you on college campuses. It got increasingly worse. During my undergrad, I was kind of okay. You could express your view, and maybe you were shunned for it, but it was nothing like what it is now. Everything changed around 2016. I saw it at my law school. I've seen it across the country. But this is where all of you, when you go onto your campuses, know what your worldview is. My dad used to always say to me, you have a worldview. What is it? And I didn't quite understand that term until I left my cozy home of Plant City, Florida, my church, and I went out into the world. And I quickly learned what my worldview was. Politically, it was Rush Limbaugh, who I listened to in my dad's truck growing up. Love Rush Limbaugh. But more than that was my faith. I was raised in the Southern Baptist Church. I gave my life to Jesus Christ. I walked down the aisle as a middle school girl. And there was a moment, I know I became a Christian that day, but there was a moment later in life when my faith went from here to here. And that was a moment where I had just left college. I was feeling so lonely. I don't know how college is for you guys, but it can be a really lonely place. And then you go out into the world. I went to Manhattan. I had my first job. I worked for a great guy, Governor Mike Huckabee at Fox. He's wonderful. But it was very lonely, and I remember I went to the Journey Church. It's a church in Manhattan, and my pastor said, Manhattan's a place where there are millions and millions of people, but sometimes it can feel like you're the only person on planet Earth, and I certainly felt that way one day. I left work early. I tried to call my mom. She wasn't answering her phone, and I said to God, if you're out there, I need to hear from you right here, right now. And I got a call on my phone, number I didn't know, and I thought to myself, this is a telemarketer. That's okay. I'll talk to them. So it wasn't a telemarketer. It was a voice. I don't even remember if it was a girl. I don't remember if it was a guy. I don't remember anything about the person. But they said, this is the Journey Church. We feel like we need to pray for you. How can we pray for you? And I'll tell you, it's pretty cool to get a call from the President of the United States being asked to be his press secretary. But it's a whole nother level when you get a call from the risen Savior through one of his emissaries here on earth. And that day changed my life. And I want to end here just by saying, for all of you out there, I gave a message today about God putting me in a certain time and a certain place for a reason. All of you in this room have a purpose. And I say this is one of my favorite places to speak every year. I believe we have a future press secretary in this room. We could have a future president in this room. You all are some of the brightest minds in the country, and I look forward to meeting you each and every year. But in the same way that God put me in a certain time in a certain place on May 1st, 2020, the day of my first press briefing, all of you are here with that purpose. Ask him what it is. He will show it to you. Because in the same way I was put here for such a time as this, so too are you here for such a time as this. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. I'm going to head home to baby Nash.